Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where we talk about all things movies. Welcome especially if you're new. If you enjoy talking about movies and staying up to speed on what's in theaters and what's worth checking out, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my reviews when they post. Alright, today we are at the end of July, so it's time for our Movies Monthly July 2022 edition. And so what we do for the Movies Monthly, we just go through all of the movies that I saw in theaters and we place them in a tier list. And then I just talk about the different TV shows and movies I watched at home, just keeping you up to speed on the new stuff I've been watching there. And then we go over any new soundtracks that I listen to that I think are worth recommending. And then we finish it off with just a look at the Steelbooks that I picked up over the course of the month. So with that, let's get on into the Movies Monthly. And first up, we have the tier list for movies I saw at the theater. And this month, I saw a fair number. It looks like we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 movies that I saw in theaters this month. So we're just going to go through. I have reviews posted on the channel for each of these individually, so if you'd like my full thoughts on any of them, be sure to check those out. So this is just going to be a brief kind of recap of my thoughts and placing them in the tier list. So first up, we have Minions: The Rise of Gru. Now, this film I thought was pretty par for the course for this franchise, so if that's what you're looking for, I think you'll enjoy it, but I'm kind of tired out of this franchise at this point, so this was very much a meh movie. It wasn't bad by any means, it's just not really my type of humor. It's very much a kid's film at the end of the day, so this one I put in the meh category. Mr. Malcolm's List, this was actually a pleasant surprise. I didn't really know what to expect going into this movie, and it felt like a fairly more relatable Pride and Prejudice to me. So I really enjoyed it and thought that it was a very good movie and that it's one worth checking out. So this one goes in the very good tier. Next up, we have The Forgiven. This movie was very meh for me. It was fairly, I'd say, depressing in its subject matter, and then I just didn't really care for any of the characters. So it was, while I think it was well done, it just wasn't a very enjoyable film for me, and not one that I walked away from. I mean, things like The Joker aren't all that enjoyable as movies, but that one is a very good movie, and while it wasn't necessarily entertaining or enjoyable, it presents other things that make it worth the watch. But this one didn't quite get it to that level for me, so it goes in the meh category. Up next, we have Thor: Love and Thunder, and this one I was looking forward to quite a bit. I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, and I like the Thor character. I don't like him quite as much as Captain America or Iron Man in the MCU, but I do enjoy him. And I had a lot of fun with this film, and I think originally walking out of the theater and in my review I gave it an A, but thinking about the film a bit more since then, and just I don't know too many people who've seen it that I know personally, so I've watched several other reviews online just to get some form of being able to talk about it. And in doing so, it's made me realize how much there are several things in this film that I didn't care for, as far as it feels like they kind of break continuity with the rest of the MCU and the Thor character, and it is a very much kind of self-parody for the humor at the expense of the character of Thor, in my opinion. So this one did drop a tier for me from what I initially gave it in my review. So this is very much a B movie. It was a lot of fun, but it's kind of the inconsistencies with the rest of the story that I didn't really care for, and that dropped it down. Next up, Where the Crawdads Sing. This film I did really like. I know that it's down at like 30-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think a lot of people didn't really enjoy it. But while it is fairly cliche in a lot of things, I just like the atmosphere that the movie created. And again, while the characters were kind of cliche, I still enjoyed watching them on screen. So I thought this was a very good movie, one that I really enjoyed and I would recommend. But I will still add, yeah, there are plenty of people who didn't really seem to like this. So, maybe it just depends on you. And I think different people will like it differently. Paws of Fury, this is very much a kids film, but even for a kids film, I didn't think it was all that good. I think like kids would enjoy it and take it for what it was, but it felt very bottom like tier for kids films. Like I think the other two that released this month were better, but this is a solid meh tier. I didn't laugh very much, if at all, during this movie, and the story was, yeah, there were a lot of issues that I found with the movie. I don't need to rehash them here. If you're curious, you can certainly go check out my review on it. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. That's a bit of a tongue twister. This was an enjoyable film. I know that a lot of people really liked it, and I think it's at like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, something like that. It's very high up there. What I take that to mean is I think a lot of people would enjoy it, but it's not like necessarily the best movie ever, in my opinion. So I had a good time, and I would give this a B for Marcel. Gone in the Night. This was a solid C tier for me again. It was some interesting concepts, and it was nice to see Winona Ryder. And having recently seen her in Stranger Things, I think she's a very good actress, and it's nice to see her getting some other work. But the story was kind of lacking. There were some intriguing things, but yeah, at the end of the day, this wasn't necessarily a very good film, and not one that I could say I recommend. Nope, this was my first Jordan Peele film that I'd seen, so I had no idea what to expect, but even there, as I understand it, he doesn't necessarily have a particular style yet in his career. But this, I was entertained the entire time through. It held my attention. I think it's a little bit longer of a film. I think it might be a little over 2 hours, but I know I've seen some comments that it could have been maybe a bit tighter, and it's not all the subplots like tied together, but I enjoyed it, and I think I see how some of the subplots tie in. I don't want to get into spoilers or anything, but it is one that I thought was very good, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. This was a very entertaining film for me, and I saw it in kind of the middle of the week where it was just a crazy hectic week with work. I was working a lot, and it was nice just to kind of have a very pleasant film to kind of turn my brain off for a few hours and just, enjoy something. So I think I initially gave this an A. I think it is, I think, very upper B tier. I don't think it's quite A tier as far as being a very good film, but I did really enjoy it, and I think I enjoyed it more than it maybe deserves, just given kind of the circumstances around it. So kind of acknowledging that, I'm going to put it in the B tier, but it is definitely an upper B tier. My Donkey, My Lover, and I. This was a fun film. It's not spoken in English, but if you don't care for subtitles, just keep that in mind. But this one again was an entertaining film. Not like a great film or one that I'd recommend that everybody go see, but if you're looking for something, I think when it hits streaming, it's worth checking out, and I thought it was a good film. Vengeance. I'm a little torn between which tier to put it in. I think it's an A. I think it covers a lot of interesting concepts in the film and presents a lot of interesting ideas, and that's what I really like in film. Doesn't mean I don't mean that every film has to have that, but when it has it and it's done well, I do really enjoy it. So this was B.J. Novak's directorial debut for movies, and he also wrote and starred in it. So it's impressive to see. I mean, it takes so much work and talent just to do one of those roles, but to do all three in your first time around for a movie, I think is very well done by B.J. Novak and the rest of the crew that obviously made that movie possible. But I give this one an A. I thought it was an interesting film, and it had a lot of kind of dry humor that I appreciated. DC League of Super Pets. Here again, this is another kids film, so I do I make these lists subjective to me. So I do recognize usually and try to point out when my subjectivity is probably a little bit more biased, but this is still my list, so I rank it accordingly. and this was a meh film for me. I didn't think the story was all that entertaining or interesting, and the humor and jokes weren't all that funny for me. There was maybe just a couple that I enjoyed. But I think it is a good kids film, and certainly a lot better than Paws of Fury. I think it's up there with Minions: The Rise of Gru, although I think Minions is probably a little bit better. But I think it's a good kids film, but for me, it's solidly in the meh category for my own personal enjoyment of the film. So there we have it. This month was a pretty widespread month. I didn't get any S tiers. I don't think there was anything that was even close to that this month, but there were some surprises. I think some of the movies up there in the A category I wouldn't have expected to have up there, and some of the ones lower down I would have hoped would maybe be a bit higher up. But overall I think a pretty average month at the movies. And with that, we'll jump into the next section of our Movies Monthly, which is what I watched at home. So this is just a chance for me to share what I've been watching at home. I'd love to hear, which movies you have seen at home, or which shows you've been watching down in the comments. If you've seen any of these, especially, let me know how much you enjoyed them. But while it was a busy month, I managed to finish up several seasons of different shows. And first up, we had Stranger Things Season 4. They dropped their final 2 episodes of the season very early on in the month. And I thoroughly enjoyed Season 4. I can finally talk about it now in a Movies Monthly, even though they dropped the first batch back in May. And this was my second favorite season of the show overall. I think Season 1 is still my favorite. But really happy that they're actually trending up again from seasons 2 and 3, which I still really liked, but they weren't quite on the level of season 1. Whereas I think season 4, while not quite as good as season 1, is still kind of up there in the conversation as to whether or not it is that good. And so, I think with this season, we still have one more season to go, but at this point, having 4 of the 5 seasons, I am at the point where I give this a great. Like, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. They do such a good job, and season 4 was very good all around. I love that the last 2 episodes of the season were collectively 4 hours long. Like, they basically gave us 2 movies. And I know some people that was a lot, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Basically I think I watched both episodes in the same day, and it was not many other shows do that, so I personally enjoyed it. Next up, we have The Boys. They finished their 3rd season this month, and this is another, I think, great show. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. There's a lot of gore and a lot of crude humor and that sort of thing, but it definitely tries to push the bounds on those things. But I do enjoy it. I think they are being very original as far as anything else that's out there that I've seen. And season 3 continues what the show is. I don't think it's quite up there with season 1 as far as which one is my favorite, but maybe that was just because of the novelty of what season 1 was, and now at this point we're maybe a little desensitized to what The Boys is, and when they kind of push the boundaries, it's not as shocking anymore. But I do think this is a great show. If you can get through some of the types of humor and stuff that are in there, as long as that doesn't turn you off, I do think it's a great show. And then next up, I finished the 3rd season of Fargo this month, and this is a show that I watched. I only do a season at a time. It had been a year or 2, something like that, since I watched season 2. But I really liked season 3. It was having been disappointed by Obi-Wan, it was nice to have something with Ewan McGregor in that I really liked. And I'm not quite at the point where I'd say Fargo's a great show. I think it might be, but for now, I'm going to give it a very good. This was a really entertaining season, and I thought the villain was well done. Very, very despicable, and somebody that I was just waiting for them to get what was coming to them. I don't know I'm not going to say if they did or didn't, but I definitely felt that way the entire season. And it's very typical Fargo at this point if you've seen any other of the seasons. But it's one that I recommend and thought was very good. Ms. Marvel, this was a show that I thought got off to a really good start, and I loved a lot of it. It felt very fresh for the MCU, and they were kind of breaking out of the cookie cutter mold that they've been doing for a lot of their stuff, especially their TV shows. That said, that was the first couple episodes. They then kind of fit into that cookie cutter mold in the second and third parts of the season. And so while I still enjoyed it, I do think that it was just good. It's not one that I would up and recommend. I think I was at that point after the first two episodes, but the rest of the season did kind of bring it down for me. So I just, yeah, my suggestion to Marvel there is, I mean, not that I would know anything about how to run, making movies, but I'd like to see more fresh stuff and stick it out through the rest of the season and not make every single thing feel like the next as far as how the season comes to a close. Like, not everything has to be big, like relatively big in scale, but that's what it is. Next up, we have Chernobyl. I got around to this after it being out for years now. I think I'd watched the first two episodes initially and didn't realize it was only like a 5-part miniseries. Otherwise, I think I would have finished it out. But finally got back around to it, and I think the show is very well done, but for my personal enjoyment of it, I would give it just a good. I liked the first and like the last episodes, but the middle episodes felt just like a little long. And yeah, while I really appreciated getting to learn about it, because it was a story I was unfamiliar with, that was like the main interesting part of it. And yeah, I can see why it's like very, very highly rated, but for me, like my personal enjoyment of it and like entertainment value, although there again, I think the subject matter kind of prevents it a bit as far as entertainment value. So, but yeah, I still give it just a good. Like, I think it's worth a watch, but I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it necessarily. And then last up, we have The Gray Man. I just watched this, I think, a day or two ago, and I think it's been out for a week or two. But I was really looking forward to this film. I like what the Russo brothers have done in the MCU, and I was excited to see Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling as the leads in this, but it also had a pretty good supporting cast. In like I've seen Ana de Armas now in a few different things, and so it's always good to see something where you recognize the actors in it. That said, I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I thought that it was very, very cinematic. I think this is one that would be great to see in theaters, although it only had a very limited release. But I watched it at home on my 135-inch screen that I've got a projector for, and yeah, it was very, very beautifully shot. I really liked how they used drones to film stuff too in this. It was done enough for me to appreciate it, but they didn't go over the top like Michael Bay did in Ambulance, for example. And so I thought, yeah, the visuals were really, really good. Some of it reminded me a bit of John Wick for just all like the bright lights and colors. And so I liked that aspect of it quite a bit, but I thought that the story itself was fairly straightforward for this type of movie. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a good. Like, I think it's fun, it's worth the watch, but I'm not gonna say, hey, this is very good, you should go check it out. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, is what it is at the end of the day. So this month, yeah, we had some good stuff at home. It's nice to see a variety of things. And if you've been watching stuff and got any recommendations, well, I can't promise I'll get to it anytime soon. I'm always open to recommendations and kind of fleshing out my backlog of stuff to get through. So drop any recommendations or thoughts on any of this stuff if you've seen it in the comments below. And with that, we'll go on to our next section, which is my soundtrack recommendations. Basically the new soundtracks that I listened to over the course of the month that I thought are worth checking out. And we'll just name these off, but the Mr. Malcolm's List, I actually really liked the music in that one. It was just very pleasant for the film. I think it had a lot of like strings and piano, if I remember, but that's kind of the sort of music that I like. And the Phantom of the Open, there again, it was nice background music. It wasn't necessarily the most thematic, but an enjoyable listen. I really liked Thor: Love and Thunder soundtrack. I thought Michael Giacchino did an awesome job. He's been knocking it out of the park lately. Like in the last year, he did Spider-Man, No Way Home, The Batman, and this, and he just, yeah, each one is, I love his work. He's very easily in one of like my top list of artists, especially with his recent work. I think his work maybe 10 years ago used to sound very, very similar. If you looked at like his music from Lost or Star Trek, or like he had a very distinct style, but I think his more recent stuff has been a little less distinct, and he kind of makes each one feel its own. So I appreciate that quite a bit. And then I listened to each of the soundtracks for the Downton Abbey movies. I really like the music from the show, and I've listened to the soundtrack from the show before, but I hadn't gotten around to the movies. And yeah, these are about the same. So if you enjoy that music, or if you don't know, if you like, that's one of my favorite things about those shows and those movies is the music. I think they do a phenomenal job with. And then Stranger Things season 3 and 4. I haven't listened to I haven't listened to the soundtrack from the third season yet, and then 4 was new. So those are both, again, I think they do a great job with the soundtrack for that. It's a little different in like the sound, but I think it fits the show very much, and I recommend those. And then lastly, Riverdale. I've listened to the first season soundtrack, I think, but then I listened to 4 and 5, or 3 and 4, 3 and 4 this month. And there again, I really like the soundtrack for that show. I think Blake Neely does a great job with that. And I think the first season and its soundtrack is one of the main reasons I absolutely love the first season, and other things. But the other seasons I still enjoy, and the music helps with that. But yeah, I actually got around to quite a bit of soundtracks this month. Last month I don't think I had any, so I was kind of making up a little bit. But yeah, if you got any soundtrack recommendations, I'm always open. There again, drop it in the comments down below. And with that, we'll move on to our Steelbook section. So I'm just going to show off the different Steelbooks that I picked up over the course of the month. And for this, we will switch the view here so we get a little bit more on camera when I pull them out. But yeah, each month, so as you can see on the wall behind me, I collect Steelbooks and I display them on the wall. They hang by magnets, so I can take them down and exchange them for other ones. So over the course of the month, I picked up several, and then these will go on the wall behind me, so you'll see them kind of in this kind of area on either side. So they'll be up then, and for the following month, so we can see last month's there. And yeah, I'll get them up after this video. But I actually picked up quite a few Steelbooks this month. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ones. So we'll go through and look at each one individually, and I'll kind of comment on how much I like the artwork and that sort of thing. So first up, we have Wreck-It Ralph. I picked up this one off of Zabi, the website. So it's got some interesting kind of stylized artwork. We're getting some glare from the computer, but that's okay. I like when a movie does kind of interesting or unique artwork, and it's not just like a screenshot or what the poster would have been. But that's first up. So we had Wreck-It Ralph. Next up, we have Rick and Morty season. We'll try to not get the glare on there. This is season 5, and here again, I thought they did a great job with the artwork. There we go. That has a little bit more light. And yeah, just very, very, very artistic on the front there. The back's kind of cool too. But this was on sale on Amazon. I hadn't picked up the season yet. I have the first 3 seasons just on regular Blu-ray. But yeah, this was on sale, and so I hadn't had it yet, and it was a Steelbook. So I figured I'd pick it up, and yeah, I like the artwork on that one. Next up, we have Rick and Morty season 4. This is a bit different of a style than season 5. I think I like season 5 significantly more. This one's a little bit more straightforward, but there again, I didn't have the season on Blu-ray, so I figured I'd pick it up even though it wasn't my favorite Steelbook. All right, and then we've got Pan. This is one that was on sale on Amazon. I think it was like under $10, something like that. And so for it being a steelbook and not a film that I already owned, I figured I'd pick it up. I haven't even seen this film yet, so I'll have to give it a watch. But I like the artwork. It doesn't feel like a movie poster. I do like how, kind of its simplicity, and I think it's a nice shot that they put on there. So. Up next, we have Moana, and this is one that was kind of on my list to buy for a while. I picked it up at Zavi. I think it was on sale, but I think the artwork's just really clean, and this is, I really enjoyed the movie, and so while I already had the movie, I like the artwork enough to pick up the steelbook, and I think this is a really nice steelbook. So excited to have it in my collection. All right, this one is a new release. It's Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. I think it's an interesting enough artwork on there. It's a little different. Maybe not my favorite Harry Potter one, but I mean, given how much, I'm not going to go into any details on the film in case you haven't seen it, but it's a nice cover. I think it's got some nice colors in there. Kind of middle of the road for a steelbook in my opinion. And then another new release, so to speak, like this was the steelbook version of this was released this month, and then it came out in 4K as well. So this is a fairly old movie, I think 8 years old now. But Edge of Tomorrow, I really like this movie. So I was excited to see that they're giving it a steelbook. It's not, in my opinion, like the best steelbook ever. Like they could have probably come up with a bit more interesting art, but I'm happy that it has a steelbook and that it got released in 4K. So I'm excited to check out the 4K and see how nice that looks, because I've only seen it in 1080p and 3D. And then another new release, this is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I really like the artwork on this. So the movie for me was just kind of a B. It was good. I think it could have been better, but yeah, I really like the artwork. The 3 different Doctor Stranges on the front, and then on the back you've got, I'm trying not to get the glare of the steelbook or my monitor in there, and then on the back you've got a couple different Wandas. So I think they did a great job with this. This is what steelbook art should be, in my opinion, and that was a good pickup this month. And then lastly, we have Death on the Nile. This is relatively new. I don't think it was like brand new or like on release day when I picked it up, but I got it off of Zavi, and I just like the artwork on it. It's just beautiful colors, and again, not my favorite film, but I thought it was a good film this year, and I was happy to get it off of Zavi. So. I'm not sponsored by Zavi, by the way. I'm just I comment where I get things. Most of the ones, I think I said which ones I got off of Amazon. That was the Rick and Morty's and Pan. Otherwise, the new release ones I usually get through Best Buy, which I did for the 3 this month. So, they're not sponsoring me. That's just that's where I get my steelbooks. In case you're interested and you're looking for them, because sometimes they're a bit hard to come by, especially some of the ones from Best Buy. You have to be pretty preemptive about pre-ordering them, otherwise they get sold out. But anyway, that's my haul for this month for steelbooks. If you picked up any nice ones yourself this month and care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below. And with that, we will get into our last section, which is upcoming for August 2022. What am I looking forward to? And as you can see here, we'll switch views again, so you get a little bit more there. So the main movie that I can think of that's coming out this next month that I'm really looking forward to is Bullet Train. I think this just looks like a really good movie, really good action movie, shot absolutely beautifully from what the trailers look like. So I'm super excited. That comes out in basically a week or at the end of this week. And but that's it for movies, kind of light this month. But we've got a couple things. We got House of the Dragon starting up this month. I am super excited for that. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. That is quite possibly my favorite show ever. So the fact that it's coming back as a prequel, I'm cautious. Well, I should be a bit more cautious about it, but I'm very optimistic and excited for this show to come back. So I'm curious to see what it looks like without Dan and Dave show running it. I am assuming it'll be pretty good. I think the production value will probably be pretty similar, but Dan and Dave, I think, didn't quite bring Game of Thrones as strongly across the finish line as they could have. So I am happy that they're not, the showrunners for this show, and that other people are taking over. So I'm curious to see what it's going to be. And then Westworld Season 4, we're right in the middle of Season 4. So that should wrap up this next month. And yeah, I'm curious to see what the second half of the season has in store for us. So far, I've been enjoying it. Still not as good as Season 1. I don't know if anything will ever be as good as Season 1 or like any of the other seasons will be. But I'm enjoying it so far. It's got some interesting stuff in it. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything in particular you're looking forward to this month, whether it's TV or movies. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But with that, that wraps up our Movies Monthly. And yeah, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. It just tells me the sort of content that you like, if you like it, and what sort of videos I should be making for you. So yeah, I enjoy just talking about movies though, so I'm thankful for the opportunity. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.